strategy by Tom.
Yeah, he's actually played. I'm sure he's played against combo decks much more. So I'm sure he's got some experience to know whether or not he wants to keep all those burn spells to try to like, do they speed him up, or does he want to cut the burn spells and just bring in as much disruption as possible to try to slow Thomas down?
Right.
That's just being familiar with his own deck is probably going to be instrumental there. The card that I would kind of look to cut though is Mirror Enforcer. The problem with a card like Mirror Enforcer is that it's generally pretty slow. Like, it's not going to come out until turn 3 usually, and it doesn't hit that hard. I mean, it only hits for 4 damage by turn 4.
Right.
If you're going to go that route, then the burn is usually better. So I think that the Mirror Enforcers, I wouldn't be surprised if the Mirror Enforcers leave Preston's strategy. I mean, Master of Ethereum at least has a little bit of haste. You know what I mean?
Right, right.
The Seal of Cleansings, Disenchant, both coming in. It'll be interesting to see if he brings in Porcelain Legionnaire.
That's the new one from New Phyrexia, right?
Yeah, basically just a 3/1 first strike in this matchup.
Yeah, I don't know. I would think that he would... I mean, the Thorns seem really good when you have to set them back. Set back something like Show and Tell. He couldn't have... I mean, he would have to have played, I guess, another... like, ancient Tomb or something, adding the mana from the Sea of Traders. I guess that maybe isn't that relevant, because he could have just...
I think that the Porcelain Legionnaire's primary spot in a sideboard is a replacement for Ethersworn Canonist against non-combo decks. It just gives him a 2-drop that he can play that actually does something. Okay,
that makes sense. So, since Thomas is playing a combo deck, though, would he want to lose the Canonist?
Oh, no, he'll keep the Canonist for sure. It's possible that he thinks that Thomas is just so fast that he might bring in the Porcelain Legionnaire instead of some of the expensive creatures like Master of Ethereum or Mirror Enforcer. Probably not. Most likely the Master just has too good of an impact, but I wouldn't be surprised if we see some amount of Porcelain Legionnaire if he just decides to fill out his deck with a little more aggression. Depends on if he thinks the burn is good.
Yeah, so we'll get to see here.
He does have a lot of interaction, though. Not a lot, but I mean more than a lot of these straightforward aggro decks.
Yeah, typical affinity list.
He's got a few things you can do.
He does have a main deck Thorn. I didn't even notice that.
Yeah, that's where the 4th one. Looks like he's a little bit flooded, but at least he has a cranial plating. So I think we're going to see him keep this.
So he leads with a Great Furnace, a Mox Opal, and an Ornithopter.
A Springleaf Drum.
Springleaf Drum.
And a cranial plating. Oh no, the Seal of Cleansing. Just get out of his hand. So now his hand is just another land and a plating. Very, very strong hand, because that Ornithopter is going to put Thomas on a 3 or 4 turn clock.
Yeah.
And the Seal of Cleansing in play gives him an insurance policy. Now the tough thing about Seal of Cleansing, though, is that it doesn't entirely work. Since you can play the Hive Mind, and even if he Seal Cleansings or whatever, you can still put 1 copy down.
Thomas plays Ponder here on turn 1, off of a Volcanic Island.
The really nice part about Seal Cleansing here is that if Thomas is relying on Grim Monolith, which often these players do, it can slow him down tremendously.
Yeah. So, Thomas passes back to Preston. Preston adds a Seat of the Synod to the board, and the Cranial Plating.
Definitely going to draw the Force Flow. Yeah. Now, Thomas didn't want to pitch that Hive Mind, but that Cranial Plating is the difference between,
winning and losing there.
Like, that's a 3 or 4, that's the difference between a 3-turn clock and no clock at all. So now Thomas under absolutely no pressure at all. Preston really needs to draw some action. In situations like this that make you realize just how bad that burn is in this matchup. If you're going to play the disruption cards, you really do got to make sure that the rest of your threats actually can hit turn after turn.
Yeah. So Thomas adds after brainstorming, adds a Polluted Delta and passes back to Preston. Preston adds another Great Furnace to the board and a Thorn of Amethyst.
It's interesting. Is he playing around Mana Leak? Does he really need to play your other land?
Yeah.
I mean, why let him know the other threat? He might think it might be a plating or something. Alright.
So Thomas fetches an island.
Is he going to be brainstorming in response to the Thorn?
I think he may be.
Well, he still has the mana.
Right. He does have an Ancient Tomb in hand.
Oh, nope. He decides to wait.
So the Thorn resolves just fine, and Thomas adds an Ancient Tomb to the board. So he's got access to 4 mana here, which means he can basically play 2 casting cost or 1 casting cost spells for the moment.
No, 3. It only makes things cost 1 more.
Oh, just 1 more. For some reason I thought it cost 2 more.
Yeah,
Okay,
so
never mind.
the thing is, he's already got Intuition, which he can cast now. And he's already got in his hand, I believe, the Hive Mind and a Pact of Negation.
Oh, this
The thing is, though, he's probably going to need 2 packs. And,
just because of the so much mana on Preston's side of the board?
Oh, so he's getting the Show and Tells, yeah, of course, so that he can actually get that Hive Mind down despite how much mana, how much he's choking on mana.
Right.
The interesting thing about the interaction between Thorn and packs is that you can still play the packs for 0.
Oh, yeah.
And it's actually good because your own spells get countered. You don't care. Your opponents, they aren't affected by the Thorn.
Yeah, that's interesting.
Yeah, this has actually come up quite a bit, especially with Chalice of the Void.
Right, that was the one that I had heard
Yeah, where
about.
people play Chalice of the Void for 0, and then they're shocked that it doesn't actually do what they want against Hive Mind.
Yeah, it actually helps Hive Mind in a way. Or at least doesn't
So
hurt
Thomas
them.
has a Pact of Negation, and what he'll be able to do is both cast a Pact and cast Pact of Negation, and when he Pact of Negations, he can time it such that Preston gets stuck paying for both packs. However, he still needs to find 1 more Pact in order to pull this off.
And he digs and does not see one.
No, but he finds a Ponder or Brainstorm.
What? Yeah, more ways to dig.
Right.
This game is fetch.
Yeah, this game is just all but over. I mean, Preston really, really, really needs to draw a threat immediately. I actually think that the boarding and Seal of Cleansings probably actually a mistake.
Yeah?
Yeah, because it's too hard to actually do anything effective against the Hive Mind with them. And you just need to be putting more pressure on him,
Yeah, maybe he watered down his
yeah, he watered down his aggressive strategy too much. If that Seal of Cleansing had been a Porcelain Legionnaire or something, I mean, at least he'd be putting Thomas on some kind of a clock.
Yeah, he'd be beating down alongside those Ancient Tombs on Thomas's side of the board.
So here we see a Cranial Plating, which is a 2-turn clock. Thomas Ma deciding should he blow his Pact of Negation. It'd be very reasonable to go ahead and actually blow it.
Well,
however, it would set him back a couple turns in terms of his development, So it looks like he's probably going to go ahead and do it, just because right now Preston has no counterplay. So like, why give Preston?
Give him a clock. He has no clock whatsoever right now. So there's the Pact.
All right, Thomas deciding whether or not to lose the game on his upkeep.
Yeah, I think he's going to go with not losing.
He does decide to not lose the game.
All right.
Thomas dropping to 13, draws a card. Is that Emrakul, the Aeon's Torn?
I didn't see it. I think it may be.
Because if it's Emrakul, he has both Show and Tell and Emrakul. And he'll probably just go with the backup plan now.
Seal of Cleansing is just enchantments, right?
And artifacts.
It's an artifact. But yeah, that's right. Emrakul's on an artifact.
Yeah, I'm predicting a Show and Tell and an Emrakul, if that's actually Emrakul. It would appear it is. This is going to be all she wrote. People do not show and tell unless they mean business. Oh, it's an Emrakul. What do you know? Now the problem is that once he sacks so many permanents, he's going to have a lot less options to actually try to, like his Master of Ethereum and his Cranial Plating won't be able to be live draws this turn. Looks like he drew a Mirror Forcer though, so
which
he doesn't really have any outs. Emrakul's a tough one. And it looks like Thomas Ma has another Pact of Negation to protect the whole thing, so this game is a done one.
Yeah, so here he's sacking to the Annihilator trigger.
Yep.
And I predict he blocks here with an Ornithopter, or no, he's going to sack it.
Does he think you can't block?
Yeah, I mean...
Because maybe he figures the next Annihilator will kill him anyway. Yeah, he can't win anyway, he's already given up. Thomas still goes ahead and brainstorms, gets 2 more layers of permission. Ships the turn, feeling good about the situation. Preston draws.
Emrakul will do that to you.
See, I think he should have blocked with the Ornithopter, just give himself the chance to go.
I think
What if he draws a Thoughtcast, and then draws a Mox and a Thoughtcast, and then draws a Seat and a Thoughtcast, and then, I mean, you could keep up with the Annihilator if 4 of your next 8 cards are Thoughtcasts.
Yeah.
Alright.
Definitely,
That takes the match.
definitely tough to fight in Emrakul, but you could at least put up a little more of a fight.
No, I mean, but honestly though, these affinity decks,
Mhm.
these affinity decks were designed to prey on like bug decks and merfolk decks.
Mhm.
They've traditionally been awful against unfair combo decks. You know.
Right.
Definitely a very, very hard matchup for Preston.
So round 2 there goes to Thomas Ma with his Show and Tell Hive Mind.